Welcome back to Long Island Main Street News, where we celebrate local business, community, and government and regional education leaders who do fantastic work across the island and in our neighborhoods. We got a special guest today who's back for a second year, Dr. Boomgaarden, who is the president of St. Joe's University, was St. Joe's College, now St. Joe's University. We're excited to have him back here. So, hey, Dr. Boomgaarden, good to have you, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah,
great
totally.
To be with you.
We could do it's like a part two. I felt like it was just yesterday that we were having a chat, and it was a full year ago. Time's flying. And, there's so much happening in society. I'm sure in the educational space that you're on top of, really so much happening in different communities that we're working in across the island. So many changing, chaotic elements. I want to get to some of this stuff, but let's get to some practical matters at your university. How did you guys get to transformation? So went from a college, which was always a great college. Now you're seems like an elevation almost.
Well, it's really an affirmation.
Yes, more
of what we already were.
Yeah.
And so I actually, as we were saying before the show, I was the assistant provost at what used to be Loyola College of Maryland back in 2004. And they went through the process of transforming into Loyola University, Maryland.
Right.
And so I saw that happen, and I saw the benefits to Loyola in Baltimore. And so when I discovered that we were eligible to apply for university status here in New York State, I immediately was very excited. I found out about it in December of last year, and then immediately started speaking with the Board of Trustees. I described the process to them, and basically you have to demonstrate to the state that you have graduate programs in a series of areas, so areas like business, nursing, liberal arts, and so forth. And we had all of those things.
Right.
So we had all of the requirements to attain the status. We just had to go through the process. But along with that, there's a process of talking to people about it. So I went to the faculty, I went to the students, I went to the Sisters of St. Joseph, the founders of the school.
Founders, yeah.
And in fact, one of the more exciting conversations I had was with Sister Elizabeth Hill, who's been the former president of St. Joseph's.
Of course.
And I said, Sister, what would you think if I said that St. Joseph's could become a university? And I wasn't sure how she would react because, it had been a college for women for a long time before it became co-ed back in the 70s. And we have many graduates that are very traditional. And so my fear was that she would say, I think the graduates might be unhappy with that change.
Right.
But she paused for a second and then she said, I think that would be fantastic.
Right, nice.
And I realized in talking to her that she saw St. Joseph's becoming St. Joseph's University as a part of the legacy of the sisters.
Okay, nice.
So the school, in many ways, started out as a tiny institution in 1916 with 12 students. And now, 100 years later, a little bit over 100 years, it's a university.
Yeah.
And it's a regional university,
It
one
is.
of the major regional universities. And so I could see from her excitement, I thought, okay, this is going to be good. I think this is something that people will be very, very thrilled to hear about.
Right.
And so as I talked about it, there were questions, of course, what will this mean? Will we lose our character? Will we suddenly become an institution where the students are just a number and not a name? Things like that.
Right.
And I reassured people, I said, no, we're not going to change our culture or our personality.
Right.
We're going to be who we are, but we have to be honest about who we are. And we're a school with close to 30 graduate programs, large online programs,
Right.
campuses in Long Island and Brooklyn. We have all of the size and characteristics that most universities have. And then on top of that, of course, what are the benefits? The benefits to the alumni, if they're out there in the job market and they're able to say they're graduates of St. Joseph's University, that means something.
That's right.
If they are a current student and they're thinking of going into other careers, then this is also going to be helping them. If we look at our prospective students, naturally going to a university sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not only that, we have, particularly in Brooklyn, we have a large number of international students.
Sure.
And I worked for a long time in Europe. I worked in Austria for quite a while. And when I was working there, people would ask me where I had gone to school and where I was working in the United States. And I said, well, at that time I was working at a college. And they would say, well, that's a high school, isn't it?
Right. So other countries don't understand the role of college. It's all the university.
Right. So for us, for our international students, that's going to be a benefit in terms of recruitment.
Sure.
And then for the faculty, of course, when they're applying for federal grants and state grants, to say that they're a faculty member at a university, this is only going to be an advantage to them.
That's right.
So there are many, many advantages, and everyone embraced that change. And it was also a wonderful opportunity to talk about something positive in what had been a very dark couple of years with the pandemic.
That's right, sure.
So it galvanized people around the university, created a lot of excitement. And we submitted our papers to the state, and then we were officially granted the designation in April. And then this year, for commencement for our students in May, it was the first commencement where they would receive a diploma from St. Joseph's University.
Nice.
And also, I felt it was important and that we graduate both campuses together. So we had the commencement for the first time in a long time, certainly within recent memory, a commencement with both the Brooklyn and the Long Island students together. And that was a very joyous event in the Nassau County Coliseum.
Nice. Yeah. Wow, so they brought it into the Nassau Coliseum. That's right.
It was great.
I heard about that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That adds to the festivities for sure. No, and it's funny, I always thought, I like your word affirmation, because when I think of a university, I think of an institution that works beyond its borders and really thinks more holistically about the community or the region that they're part of. And I felt like you guys have been doing that for a long time, and I really am glad you got that designation. So let's get to the nuts and bolts, though. I think out there, folks are looking, at least some folks we speak to, there's a lot of economic anxiety, and folks want to see that higher education, connects pragmatically into, workforce development, careers, and real economic opportunities in our region. So I know you guys have a lot of different things that you're doing in that area. So give us an update on some of the programs.
Well, there is, you do hear from time to time stories about why bother to go to college.
Right.
That's one of those themes that comes up on a rather regular basis. And I think that the first thing I'd say is, if you take a look at just the basic Department of Labor statistics, you'll discover very quickly that students with a college degree earn over their lifetime over $1 million more than a high school graduate.
Right, okay.
And that's just a basic reality.
Yeah.
And so people who say...
There's a reason to go to college.
Yeah, people who say you don't need to go to college,
got it.
There's a good reason.
Let's debunk that myth.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But more importantly for me is that at the college or at the university, you're able to develop a breadth of knowledge that you can apply to any career. Right. And when you talk to, for example, on our board of trustees, I was speaking with one of them. He's the director of TD Bank in Florida, a graduate of our Brooklyn campus years ago, delightful man. And he was talking about his MBA and how important that was to him, because you'll see stories too about how the MBA is not as popular as it once was. And he said how valuable that degree had been to him, not just from the technical knowledge that he learned, but also just from the breadth of knowledge. And we were talking a little bit about how when you're confronted with issues and complexities in business life, it's really all about creativity. How many different options can you think of to deal with a problem? There have to be more than just one or two.
That's right.
And that ability to think creatively is something that's spread all across the curriculum of the university. So whatever you happen to be studying, you're also going to be learning about how to think creatively, how to be a problem solver, and then as well, many of the courses have components in writing and in public speaking, all basic leadership skills. So whatever you're majoring in, you can even, Eric, you can even major in music and become a college president.
Right. There you go. Somebody did that. I wonder who that was.
Right. And so I try to explain. I try to explain because I get this reaction
great.
sometimes.
Yep.
You're a musician, and
Yeah.
it's hard for them. And I said, no, these skills are very similar.
Yeah.
Music is all about analysis,
Right.
and music is all about public performance.
It is, right.
And music is, in my case, I was a pianist, so music meant sitting in a practice room for many, many hours a day, just focusing on a problem and solving it. And
connecting to people too.
Absolutely.
There's a soulful piece to music that, and in many industries and leadership too, people need to kind of get that you're with them and tune it in too. As a musician, you're feeding off the audience as well. Like you're getting that feedback loop. I get it.
You're connecting with people, and you could say that about a lot of the disciplines that people would think of as artistic disciplines. It might be literature,
Right.
it might be history. All of those things are helping to prepare you to connect with people and develop skills. So one of the things I say to parents who sometimes are very anxious about careers and jobs, I say, it's good to be concerned about these things, but just remember that your student, your child, whatever they study, they're going to be successful if they come to St. Joseph's. We have a graduation rate of over 70%. Right. The other day, one of the fun things as president is I get to sign these letters that we write to successful graduates. So these are people that have been promoted in various fields, in banking, in industry, in sciences, almost a great many of them here in Long Island. And I'm signing these things, and I'm reading the letters. And I'm like, this is awesome. You're now the director of this office, or this person is now the assistant vice president of this office. And some of these are students that I've actually known. And it's a pile like this of letters. And so many of them are working in fields that were not their major. Right. And that's what's important for parents to understand, is that in the new world, we go back to the Department of Labor Statistics, people change jobs at least 12 times over the course of their lifetime.
Right.
They don't keep real statistics on changing careers, but I suspect people change careers at least 2 or 3 times, maybe more. So whatever they're majoring in, they're learning the skills to be successful and to change and adapt. Now, of course, we offer incredible training in professional areas. So at St. Joseph's, for example, we have a master's degree in accounting. We have the master's degree of business. We have degrees in an MBA in healthcare administration. We have straight healthcare administration. We have all of the fields in education. We have nursing graduate degrees, and we have, of course, a nursing program. We also are starting this year a Master's of Social Work degree.
Nice.
And this is one which we may have touched on last time when I talked with you. Now we have the classes started in the summer. They'll be going into the fall. It's actually fully enrolled. We're having incredible success with that program.
Tremendous need right now.
A tremendous need. That's what
the human needs that are in the community there can't be enough people that are kind of healing the wounds that people are grappling with socially.
Totally agree. I was in New Orleans after Katrina. I was the dean of the College of Music and Fine Arts at Loyola New Orleans. Right. And one of the things that I saw immediately was a tremendous depression caused by the anxiety. Is this going to happen again?
Yeah, right.
And can we live here in this zone which is so dangerous, in many ways, many parallels to our current situation. So I actually had the idea of the MSW even before the pandemic, and we were already developing it, and now I think there'll be an incredible need for mental health care of all types due to that, as there was in Louisiana after Katrina.
Sure. And I know you do, you do get into hospitality and tourism. I know you've got that program as well, which I think, I think those industries are coming back. I think there's been a tremendous, certainly on Long Island, a massive staycation kind of mindset where a lot of the local events are just brimming. I mean, there's just, which has been fantastic. So I think it brings those jobs back that people were, lost and a lot of economic loss through the pandemic. So, in addition to your programs and careers, I know I was at a ribbon cutting that you guys had, groundbreaking that you had for a new student center.
Correct.
So I guess you're growing with
Yes.
a facility that can accommodate your kids.
Yeah, we have. It'll be completed in spring of 23, and it is a state-of-the-art, over 30,000 square feet, $17 million structure. It'll have dining spaces, learning spaces, office spaces, gathering spaces for students, and it's what we've lacked. We have some beautiful buildings on the Long Island campus, but no building that is specifically designated as a student center. And so this gives students a place to hang out, if you will, during the day. We're primarily a non-residential school, so kids need to have a place to hang out.
That's right.
And so this will give them a wonderful site to do so. And the building, if you drive by the campus and look at it, it's already a very impressive structure. It completes the quadrangle. And I think people realize it is a symbol of hope and a symbol of development and transformation for the whole school. So we're very excited about it. It'll also have classrooms which are linked to Brooklyn. So there will be distance learning courses going on between Brooklyn and Long Island in that building as well.
No, that's great. I look forward to that. So I was a commuter student, and I remember the challenges of, okay, where do I hang out for a little while? And to actually give the respect to give folks that kind of space. I think it's fantastic. So I totally understand that. You guys are also involved in a lot of your programs. You go beyond your borders and do charity work, and there's a lot of you guys are involved in the local community. So you obviously encourage that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you.
It's part of our core values, right?
Yeah.
One of our core values is service, social responsibility. And again, that comes from the founders. The Sisters of St. Joseph. Anyone knows who's from Long Island and understands the Sisters of St. Joseph Brentwood. They know the incredibly social activism of the sisters going all the way back into the 60s, the civil rights movement. And so they have been a model for us as an institution in terms of outreach. So each campus has a special mission and ministry center and mission and ministry director. But along with that, every student club, for example, has some type of charity that they work with. That's written into their charter.
Right.
So whether it's for cancer or whether it's for other type of medical developments, whether it's for food pantries, every single club is raising money on a pretty consistent basis for all of the charities on Long Island. And so that's built into the DNA of St. Joseph's. Same thing in Brooklyn, very, very strong connection with the community, and that's really who we are, a very important part of who we are.
Yeah, that energy is palpable, and I think people see it out there. We're plugged into a lot of community initiatives, and you guys come up again and again and again, and I think it's impressive that you do it. I'm glad that it also cuts in, like when you talk about core values, there's a perspective sometimes that folks are just kind of following attitudes. If you look at social media, sometimes it kind of warps your thinking, because you're like, it's a kind of a narcissistic, give me it's mine culture. I'm right, you're wrong, da, da, da. And so some of that in social media is a lot of that, like young people on, you can put that stuff aside and you see real people in a community giving back, if it's dollars, if it's time, if it's some kind of using your talents, your services. I just think it's great that you institute that, and I think we can't have enough of that. And there's a lot of local community organizations that need young leadership to come in and kind of, there needs to be some succession. There's some human service leaders and some civic leaders have been doing some of this stuff a long time.
Absolutely.
The baton needs to pass, so I think it's great that you're doing that. That's part of your journey.
The students themselves want to do it, and I think I would say to anybody in the audience who, if you're concerned about the future, just come onto my campus and spend some time with these young people, and you'll feel a lot better. Because they are so concerned about whether it's the environment, social justice issues. They want to make the world a better place, and they see how the university can be a vehicle to help them to transform the world around them. And that's, I think a great university is that. The university should be a part of the community And it shouldn't just be an ivory tower where people go and get certificates and do research. It can't be that. It has to be more than that. And so I see this as linking us to the community all around us.
You know, it's great you mentioned that, because you mentioned that the first time we chatted. It's not, not about an ivory tower thing. And it's funny, when I first interviewed you, I was nervous because I never interviewed a college president before. What am I supposed to say? Because I'm thinking like high-minded, big ideas. But I kind of want to get to some big ideas because I need your counsel. How the hell do we deal with the time we're in right now? Not to dump all this on you, but it's like we're going through massive chaos. Economic challenges. Food pantries are not full for sure. In many cases, they're empty. There's all kinds of social anxieties. We have, our good friend from one of the human service organizations come on here, tells me all the stats about alcohol's up, drugs are up, depression's up. So there's all this trauma, drama, chaos, economic pressures. And that's all kind of swirling around us with a whole lot of leadership uncertainty. You look in Washington, there's not much in the way of leadership. You're stressed out about whether Republican, Democrat, whatever you are, you're not happy. Albany is kind of a top-down, stuff's coming down at us, and Long Islanders are trying to sort things out, a lot of challenges. I can go on and on and on. I'll just depress you. How do you, you're working with students, you're finding people at their best or their worst. How do you guide them? What are you saying? What are you thinking? As a higher education guy running the ship, how do we manage through this chaos?
Well,
not to give you a tough, loaded question.
I don't have an easy solution, but in a strange way, one of the things I say to people is, that feeling of being surrounded by chaos is not new.
Right.
If you look at the history, just the recent history of the United States.
Sure.
Let's just start with the Civil War.
Right, okay.
You can see a tremendous amount of social upheaval, anxiety, disruption going on in our history. And if you go back even a few centuries, it's even more pronounced. And so chaos and anxiety are just a part of life.
Right.
And there's not some wonderful goal that we're going to reach where everything is solved and every problem is fixed.
Right.
So I think the first thing is to be realistic. And I tell the students, be realistic about what we can do. And it might be good, maybe one day a week at least, to turn off the news.
Right.
And just focus on your neighbor, focus on what you can control. But historically speaking, if you get a historical perspective, you can relax, because the human condition is one which is filled with anxiety, stress, and suspense. We actually need it to develop.
Right.
Now, too much, of course, is destructive, but that stress can be turned into a positive. It can develop into something good. But don't overestimate the situation and think that it's hopeless or that it cannot be overcome. I mean, as a college president, I remember hearing the dire predictions about enrollments and how colleges would be vanishing across the country. And it's true, there are some cases of that. But the reality is that in many ways, education is more robust and more powerful in terms of its impact than it ever was. And so I think to maintain that spirit of optimism is really important. Okay. So as leaders, it's important for us to remind people of that.
Okay.
And to take a look at some of the positive examples from history where the country has overcome and actually developed from struggle. So I feel good about the future. And I tell people to, it's the same thing your doctor would tell you. If you're having some kind of a health issue and you go on the internet, you'll quickly know that you're about to die.
Oh, God.
And I think sometimes social media and the news are a little bit like that.
Yeah,
and
they
so
are.
We need to step back from that a little bit, realize, and there's a wonderful description of this from one of the great Jesuit, former Superior General Nicholas, who describes social media as the impact of it as the globalization of superficiality.
Wait, hold on.
All right?
That's a box score.
Right?
Hold on.
The globalization of superficiality. Right? And so we have to be cautious about that world.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that one. Let's go. I'm going to use that again. Mm-hmm. Who do I credit that to?
That's Father Nicholas.
Okay.
and he was the Secretary General of the Jesuits, and it's from a speech he gave in Mexico City in 2010 on Jesuit education. He was talking about Jesuit, but he was talking about what are some of the real dangers today to education, and one of them was just that, the globalization of superficiality. People go online and they think they know everything, when in reality they're getting
just the surface piece,
the surface of it.
So we were talking about, when we approached this topic, talking offline, we talked about the trauma and the chaos part, and I get that, being optimistic. And I'm sorry to depress the audience or you, Dr. Boomgaarden, with this. But you were talking about opportunities, so I want to pick up on that. What opportunities do you see in this climate that you're seeing people going, maneuvering through your programs and then into whatever's out there. So what are you looking ahead to?
Well, I'll give a really simple, or a real basic example. In my own course that I teach a course on North American roots music, which is kind of a course on American popular culture.
Sure.
And in that course, when I taught the course as an online course during the pandemic, I had a discussion board that people did online, and I kept that online discussion board in my on-ground version of the class this year because it was so successful in getting students to communicate who otherwise would sit in class and be very quiet.
Right.
So the the technology allowed them to come out in a way that they couldn't come out in a regular class environment. And it was so fascinating because we think of technology as being kind of a limiting or superficial thing, which it can be, but in this case it made things deeper. So I think across the spectrum of activities, people now see technology differently. And so we're working right now on a new strategic plan for the university, and in there I added a special category on technology. Not technology in terms of what new machines do we need, but technology on how can our new familiarity with technology be used to better the lives of our students and faculty.
Sure.
And what kind of developments. And I see those types of opportunities all over the place. And I think many corporations and firms are looking at technology now in a very different way than they might have before.
Right. That's neat. Yeah. That's good to hear, because again, like you say, the limiting factor of it. I mean, even just in raising my daughter, we're like trying to get her off the phone or the iPad and do something interactive. But it's like, I'm not always thinking that all these devices can bring can bring an opportunity to her, because I'm biased in the way I was raised, which is, I didn't have a computer. In college, I used the library typewriter. I didn't have I'm showing my age, but I just was totally limited technologically. So I have this different mindset. But it's a different world.
Yeah, we have to take the young people where they're at.
Yeah.
They're very technologically savvy.
Yeah.
So let's find a way to use that for the good.
Yeah.
So getting them to participate in these deeper discussions online in a zone which they're comfortable at,
right.
Whereas verbally not so much, is just one of the many things that we can do to help them.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool. So hey, what are you looking forward to? What's next for you? You're heading into a fall semester, your first semester, full semesters university. So what's next?
We started last year a gala to celebrate a particular area, and we had a wonderful event in the fall for celebrating our education leaders on Long Island and in the general region, and we gave awards, and it was just a tremendously positive experience. We're going to do the same thing this year, but this time we're going to focus on healthcare.
Okay.
So we're going to be having a special gala. This will be happening in October for our nurses and our healthcare administrators that are spread out all across this region and doing tremendous work. Just one of the many things that we're doing to kind of highlight some of the things that we do as a university. And then of course we'll also have a full spectrum of other activities going on that I think will be warmly received by the communities around us.
And classes start September 7th?
September 7th.
So up and running in Brooklyn and Patchogue, and so no restrictions with COVID. Everything all systems go.
Yeah, I mean, we have a vaccination requirement, but we're following the CDC guidelines, and we're thankful to certainly if people wish to be masked, that's fine with us, but it's not a requirement.
Great.
And we've done everything we can to keep our campus really safe, and I think we were very successful in doing that. And so we're looking forward to a year where, God willing, we won't have to have a lot of COVID discussions. I'd rather use that energy on other things.
Yeah, let's get past that.
Yeah.
Let's get past that.
Yeah.
All right, hey, I'm out of questions. Any closing thoughts you got? Because I welcome you came back. I noticed you didn't ride your motorcycle this time.
I didn't.
Okay.
I'm with my wife today, and she doesn't like to ride a motorcycle.
Okay.
She will ride in the morning to the diner on Sunday. That she will do, but riding on the LIE, that's not happening.
No, I get that. I get that. And we have a piano here, so maybe we can get you to perform
next time. Next time, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
I played a recital last spring of Gershwin.
Okay.
Piano, his transcriptions of his own songs.
Okay.
And I also had one of our faculty sing some of the songs with me. This year we'll probably do something similar, probably Schubert. So maybe next year I'll do some playing. I'd be happy to do that.
That'd be a very different kind of show, and I enjoy it. Each year we do something a little different. So I really enjoy these conversations. I look forward to them, and we've worked with just to do a shout out again to Dr. Gail Umberto, who's on our board of directors, who does a fantastic job. And she's out in the community. And she's a great ambassador for you guys, and you have a number of folks that are really fantastic out there. So I'm glad you got a great team. I'm glad you're still carrying on, my friend. And thanks for taking some time with us today.
Thank you, Eric, for all you do. All you do. Thank you.
Totally, man. All right, rock and roll. All right. So Dr. Boomgaarden's doing a fantastic job as the president of St. Joseph's University. And we really got some inspiration. I think I probably started the conversation with a little grumpy about the state of affairs here, and he really gave me some optimism, and I'm sure he's doing that for his students, and a lot of growth and change at St. Joe's in a really great way. So tune into what they're doing. They've got a whole slew of events, but both their campuses. So again, check into St. Joseph's University, and as we always tell people, continue to shop local, help our small businesses, continue to give local, help local charities, continue to listen local. Vision Long Island's Facebook at 8 p.m. each weeknight. We get a different local interview. You can get rid of that divisive cable news and tune into real Long Islanders and regional leaders who are doing great stuff. We'll catch you in the next edition.